Welcome, parents, guardians, staff, and community members to the first District 1 Digital Citizenship Parent Meeting. Before we get started, I'd like to mention two functions that can be used during the meeting. Q&A can be used throughout the meeting if you'd like to submit a question for our presenters, and polling can be used to answer any trivia questions that may be presented throughout the meeting. Both functions can be found by clicking the three dots found at the bottom of your screen. Just select those three dots and choose the option from the menu. So a bit of background, the idea for this meeting came about in the fall when many schools across the nation were affected by TikTok challenges, such as vandalizing a school bathroom, threatening violence towards a school, and even sawing through chairs with face masks. As we all learned, yes, it's possible. So our middle school administrators and school resource officers gathered to discuss how can we all be proactive rather than simply reactive to some of these online issues. Part of the plan included asking our middle school student council members to create their own video message to share with their peers. And what they created was really impressive. If you haven't had a chance to watch the videos yourself, I highly recommend it. They're all available on our YouTube channel, Yuma School District 1. The other half of this plan involved a parent meeting so that knowledge, experience, expertise could all be shared among adults. So by meeting tonight, we really hope to begin what's to be an ongoing conversation about online dangers and to really build a partnership with our parents so we can all help our kids navigate this online environment safely. So thank you for making this topic a priority so we can all work together and really empower one another with information to keep our kids safe online. Joining us tonight, we have our team of technology professionals from the District 1 and Yuma Union High School District Technology Department. They're here to share some information on the topic of social media and chatting, as well as online privacy. And then we'll hear from Officer Saucedo about the legal consequences. Officer Saucedo joins us from YPD, and he is also our school resource officer at Castle Dome Middle School. After each segment, our presenters will have time to answer some of the questions that were submitted prior to the meeting. But should you have questions that arise during the presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A function. That's those three little dots down at the bottom, and we will address as many questions as possible towards the end of the meeting. And with that, let's go ahead and get started with social media and chatting.
Be able to stay in a position where you understand what they're seeing, what they're doing, is by interacting with what they're interacting with. Google Chat's another one. Um, we don't allow that through the school functionality, but personal accounts, use those all the time with my kids as well. Um, Social media, it's everywhere, and it's all about presenting yourself to the world. So when it comes to an impact on teens and self-confidence, I mean, even us adults that understand that what we see people present isn't necessarily um, what's all the way there. It's hard to not feel inadequate in comparison to the pretty picture you always see presented to you from like Facebook and various other platforms. Um, there's an overabundance of look at me, I'm so happy that teens that are currently in the process of figuring out who they are and where they fit in the world, that it's a hard image to live up to, and that just gets amplified by the fact that they're not familiar enough with the world yet. Now on here, I kind of laughed when I got to the bullet point tips for parents, fake accounts, and stuff like that. Don't make fake accounts. Don't do that. Don't catfish your kids to try to figure out what they're doing. That's that's just going to get you to where they don't trust you, don't want to talk to you, and you won't be able to interact with them and understand the things that they're going through. Um, like most things, talk with your kids, don't exaggerate or mislead, and use the apps they use. That's really the best way that, you know, as far as I can see things, to understand social media chatting and help them through this new thing that wasn't around when we were little kids. That's it.
Christine, are you on? I think you're on mute, Christine.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Thank you. One of the questions that we received prior to the meeting was, excuse me. I'm on the fence about letting my daughter create a social media account. And at what age should I let her, if at all?
I mean, that really depends on um, the parent-child relationship there, where the kid is at, how they are. Um, Nice thing, most social media platforms in their user agreements have an age limitation built in. Like Facebook is 13. They have a kids portion of Facebook that's separate. That's a little different, but most social media has an age limit already. So if your kid's not old enough per the that platform, obviously no. If they are, that's really a decision that we can't really make for you.
I'm wondering, is one of the administrators able to chime in on kind of what they see in terms of some of the ages on campus and how maybe a sixth grader deals with social media versus an eighth grader? Um, any input on that?
Yeah, I can add in a little bit. We see out in Castle Dome, we have all grade levels have social media. I think eighth graders use it a little bit more appropriately because of the maturity, the age. I think sixth graders use it, um, because not a lot of, I wouldn't say all, I would say 30-40% of sixth graders have it. It's a guess, but there's a lot of showing of videos, there's a lot of things, and a lot of the offenses we have discipline wise because they use it inappropriately. And we see that more so in the sixth, probably in seventh grade than eighth grade. Eighth grade offenses are much more severe when they use it inappropriately, but um, they're a little more mature and age appropriate to handle some of the stuff that comes across there. So I hope I made sense with that. I hope that explained that a little bit.
Yes. Thank you. And we did have a few folks join us after we started. So I'll just mention, if you have a question during the meeting, feel free to click the three dots down at the bottom of your screen, whether you're on a computer or a phone. You'll see the three dots and you can use the Q&A function to submit a question if you think of something as our presenters are sharing information.
Christine, if I can add, something that Erica touched upon was that age limit of about 13 is what they're recommending for majority of the social media platforms in order to create an account. Keep in mind, it's a reflective question for our parents to think about: are our students and are our families ready for those platforms to start collecting data points from students using their social media accounts if they're able to create one? So that's what these things do. That's what it's a business, right? These social medias there's ads will start coming up based upon what students are searching. They're looking at how to use that information that they're collecting from our 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, or younger to start targeting their internet viewing experience that they're having. So that's something to be reflective about. Things will be collected. Information will start being collected from kids. Do they know how to appropriately protect themselves if they're posting pictures with geotagging? So, I mean, people can identify where those students are at or where the kids are at. Are they savvy enough to know those types of safety precautions? So those are all reflective questions that I would bring up to any family member who's interested in allowing or exploring the idea of their 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old child in creating some social media accounts. There's a lot of things to think about. It's a huge responsibility. Just the influences that kids are having that interaction to the world that sometimes can go filterless in some cases.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And just from a personal perspective, one thing that I've learned is sometimes it feels like as a parent, you're the one fighting this battle, whereas, all the other parents are letting their kids do it. And it's actually not always the case. It's always very surprising to hear how many parents are feeling the same way. So it's almost as if we all can get together and make sure that our kids are, on the same path. And if we don't allow our 13-year-olds or 14-year-olds to have social media, there's power in numbers. Thank you so much. We'll go back to Eric. He's going to move on to online privacy.
Can you go ahead and bring that slide up for me, please? Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. So digital footprint, examples of things that can affect you in adulthood, some do's and don'ts, and some tips. I have that kind of intermingled in everything, so I wanted to mention those before I get started. So everyone knows that things you say online are never truly gone. It's a hard concept to grasp for some of us that, you know, just a small quip 15 years ago is something that can um, have a negative impact later on. Let me go ahead and ask you guys a few rhetorical questions to kind of highlight this. Anyone in here ever seen Guardians of the Galaxy or the latest Suicide Squad movie? How many of you guys know the name of the director? Anybody? Okay. Well, the director, James Gunn, he was actually fired from Marvel after that first Guardians of the Galaxy movie because of tweets from a little over a decade ago, when he was relatively unknown trying to get attention. So, as you can imagine, the tweets were probably rather inappropriate just to garner some attention there. And they were. But think about that for a minute. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars project was derailed because of tweets that, you know, more or less a starving comedian threw out there to get attention, to get some interest in the stuff he does. I mean, there's numerous other examples that aren't quite as a large scale, of people, past coming back to prevent them from doing something that they wanted to do now, even before the internet was a thing. Um, it's just the internet and social media amplify the effect and make it worse. It makes it much easier for the stuff to be found and brought forward. I mean, it's as far as, oop, okay. So it's also said that, we're social creatures. I'm moving on to a bullet point that I actually don't see on here anymore. Um, so in addition to online privacy, um, what you say to people and the information you give out about yourself, um, is something that you need to be careful of. It said we're social creatures, and it's true. But in addition to the social aspect, we're very visual and physical in the way that we're social. We take cues from how people physically react with their bodies to what they say and what we do. Um, Obviously, I'm talking about body language and how it informs, a lot of things and how we interact with people and whether we begin to trust them or not. Anyone we've met online isn't somebody we actually know. They're essentially a stranger. Um, those kinds of, you don't tell um, someone online you're going on vacation and you're going to be gone for a week, because that's, leading to the possibility of, your house getting robbed, stuff like that. I mean, there's people I know in person that I don't tell when I go on vacation. So there information that that we give out freely, um, is something that we need to worry about and pay attention to. Um, as far as, you can talk to somebody online. They're they sound good. They're nice. You know them pretty well. And I did air quotes there for anyone that didn't see my video. Um, Problem is, studies have shown that when you're talking to somebody, through a screen, even even through video like this, but more so when it's just a text chat. Um, People have a tendency to be more dishonest. It's easier to lie. Um, you don't really want to give out personal information. When you take pictures and post them, you want to make sure your location services are turned off so that people don't know you're out and about, things like that. There's a lot of data that we give about ourselves that was mentioned earlier in the previous conversation that, you know, we're living in a time where that data is more accessible and readily used and abused by pretty much anyone that thinks to look at the information. Um, I'm going to go ahead and I kind of derailed half of what I had written here by getting distracted by missing the online safety portion there. So I'm going to go ahead and end this section the same way I ended the last one. Like most things, talk with your kids. Don't exaggerate or mislead, and use the apps your kids use. That's, I mean, communication, talking, being involved. That's the best way to keep your kids safe online and in the real world.
All right, thank you. One of our questions that we did get before the meeting was, how can I filter out inappropriate music? And I think,
For the most part, that's going to be platform specific. Um, most platforms have some sort of content rating system that you can apply to what they present to the account that is in use. So it's really going to be dependent upon that. Outside of that, there's really not much that can be done.
Mhm. Does anybody have any opinions on going back to what you were saying about like location services or telling people that you're on vacation rather than waiting until you get back, you know, to share your pictures or whatever. That's one of the things I've seen with kids is they're not always aware of, for example, their school sign might be in the background when they're sharing pictures. So now people know where they go to school. Are there any other tips that maybe parents should be having that conversation with their kids, letting them know these things they're not really paying attention to could actually end up harming them?
Yeah, I'll chime in on that one, Christine. You know, our kids live in the moment. They're kids. We all did this, right? So they're living in the moment. So it's a constant conversations as we're hearing from Eric. It's a constant conversation to be having with them. They hear it once, they hear it twice. We share that at schools to be aware. You know, when we were going to school and when we were kids, strangers usually referred to people around the block, right? That's where our universe and world ended, is around the block. Um, Touch of a fingertips, they're strangers across the world with our kids. So being mindful of their surroundings, as we've always told them, is a huge thing. Um, Not posting locations, not posting times of things, not posting your plans about what you're going to do. Those are three things that I would really like to highlight. Again, not posting where you're at, not posting where you're going to be, not posting those timelines. So that way people, it's just, those are some safety precautions I would raise up.
Thank you so much. That's absolutely something that I think is very important to remind our kids, because you're right, they live in the moment, and sometimes they don't think about those things unless they're brought up. All right, Officer Saucedo, are you ready to talk about legal consequences? A big topic.
Hello, yes. Okay. I'm Officer Salcedo. I'm with the Yuma Police Department. I'm currently the school resource officer at Castle Dome Middle School. my part today, we're going to discuss a little bit about criminal violations that are frequently seen among the middle school population. I listed a couple here, or a few, of the offenses that I've seen or kids have committed while my time here as a school resource officer. We have ARS 13-2916. Christina, I'm not sure if you can share the flyer so I can know what I'm talking about. So the use of electronic communication to terrify, intimidate, threaten, or harass. This is the offense for bullying. As we all know, like Eric said, they use different social media platforms. The one I can think of right now is the Instagram account, where I think it's each of our middle schools, at least for Castle Don't, I've seen like Hitler Ridge and other middle schools, they use their school's name on the platform, and they post pictures of other students. We had a few like Castle Dome sleepyheads, and they post a picture of kids sleeping during class. Castle Dome shoes, Castle Dome food, right? And a lot of these students that are involved, most of them didn't care. They were just part of it, laughing, giving likes or hearts, whatever they do on those platforms. But a lot of them did not agree, and that's when it becomes harassment or even intimidating threats. When they started threatening each other, um, saying that they're gonna fight or stuff like that, or they have even posted fights of other schools, not just Castledon, but like other schools. So this is the offense that we use when it gets out of hand. Obviously, we try to talk to them, make sure like to stay away from those comments or even giving likes to those kind of fights or comments, right? But yeah, that's pretty much the offense that we use for online bullying. Another common one that I've seen, and other SROs have also seen in other middle schools, is ARS 8-309, which is unlawful use of an electronic communication device by a minor. This is the one for sexting. Any juvenile in possession of inappropriate photos, images, videos of other minors, this is the offense that they can get, or the criminal. Yeah, it's criminal offense. When this happens, well, there's a question that a parent asked, but we'll leave the question for last. I'll leave that question for you, Christine, so you can ask it. But yeah, any juvenile in possession of those pictures, basically they can get charged with this offense. It's a petty offense. It's less than a misdemeanor if they are found in possession of it. But once those juveniles start sharing the picture to more than one other person, it becomes a misdemeanor offense. Another one that I've seen, it's the ARS 13-3019, which is surreptitious photographing, videotaping, filming, or digitally recording other or viewing. I think it was towards the end of last year. I believe it was on TikTok. It was one of those trends that were going around where students were filming or taking pictures of other students while using the restroom. There was an incident that I handled where a juvenile posted was using the urinal. A friend went over the stall and took a picture and then shared that picture on Snapchat. Mom finds out, they contact police, and we have to initiate a criminal investigation. And these are all from those trends that are going out there, that are out there. So obviously, I noticed when I talked to these kids in my office when we were talking about the offenses they have committed, I noticed that these kids had no idea, no clue how serious of a crime they were. So that's when I decided. I told the principal that I was going to go into classes and talk a little bit about these offenses, internet offenses, and I did. I went in there, and you won't believe, like, once I was in there talking to them, once I started saying, like, okay, this is a crime, this is not a crime, this is a crime, everybody in class was just like, be so attentive, like, just listening. Like, they had no idea how serious these offenses were, or they had no idea it was an actual offense. an actual crime to be posting pictures or exchanging these pictures. I also spoke to these 2-hour students about sexting law and prevention, what actions to take if encountered, right? Because a lot of these juveniles, they can't control what other students send them. Sometimes, I believe what it is on Snapchat, I think when you get a message sent, so we send you a message, you don't even have to open it, and the video is already playing. Even if you don't want to see the video, it's already playing. So I know they can't control what other students send them, but they can control like after they send them. If they receive it, they can delete it. My best advice that I have given to these students is to not send or forward that picture to anyone else. Talk to a parent, teacher, or trusted adult. Sometimes if parents can handle, like if parents can talk to the other parents involved of the other involved kid, it's even better. So they can make it stop. If it doesn't, obviously contact police so we can assist. And when they contact us, it doesn't mean that we're gonna go and arrest or arrest a juvenile or a minor, but we can assist by the way of going and talking to the parents and the juvenile and educate them a little bit about these sexting laws. And most of the time it stops. But a lot of people, like I said, a lot of these juveniles don't know that it's a crime. So yeah, I know there's a lot, but
Right. So let's talk about a couple of questions we got from parents ahead of time. The first question is, what legal action can be taken if a student is using their school name as the title of their online platform while bullying other students in that same school?
yeah, it's harassing. It's harassment. It's the first offense I talked about. The use of electronic communication to terrify, intimidate, threaten, or harass. Yeah, they're using the name of the school on the platform or the picture, but it's still whoever is the one that is actually doing the harassment or the threats is the one who can potentially be charged.
Mhm. Yeah, and if I could chime in on that one, that's one of the problems that we see a lot of is, and I've even heard, at higher levels at the high school, for example, as well, or at high schools in the nation, really, a lot of schools are facing that issue where kids are using the school logo and or name to create all these fictitious accounts, and the schools are left going, what do we do? What is our recourse? So really, we just have to focus on those accounts that are harmful, like the bullying, and those are the ones we can take action on. But it's really helpful if we could have some conversation with the kids about, there's some things, there's copyright laws, there's some legal issues there if you're using other logos and names and things like that to
Yeah,
misrepresent.
it's impersonation when you take the identity of somebody else for these
Mhm.
purposes. Impersonation and, like I said, the online bullying.
Right. So our next question is, as a parent, what should we do if we find that our child has received or sent inappropriate images willingly? And how best should we proceed to protect our children and ourselves legally?
Well, first of all, communication, right? If your child tells you like, "Oh, this is what's going on," well, going back to what I've told these kids, what I've taught these kids in class, obviously don't send that picture to anyone. They're already reporting it to you, or you found it in their phone. Talk to them. If you have to talk to the parents of the other minor involved, go ahead and do so. If it continues, if the request or photos don't stop, contact us and we can go and investigate if we have to investigate or initiate a criminal investigation. By communication, that's very important. Get your get those kids talking to you. They can trust you and communicate that information. Very important.
And also, if I could bring that full circle back to online privacy, and that stuff doesn't go away. If that's sent, shared, if it's you sending that, that stuff is there, and we've seen that with even just tweets from 10 years ago, right? I mean, we see that, we hear about that all the time. Things are being pulled from people's pasts and brought up when they're, you know, 10 years older, more mature, maybe wouldn't make that same decision, but yet they're
Right.
still going to pay for it and in their future.
So that's kind of something I wanted to add to what Officer Salcedo said earlier, especially with apps like Snapchat that tell you that they're deleting things. That stuff is not deleted. It doesn't go away. You know, it's on a server somewhere. And it's not the only app that does that. There, quote unquote, does that. There's plenty of other apps that say they do that, but I mean, once it's on the internet, like again, what Eric was saying earlier, once it's on the internet, it's there.
You know, Christine, to answer that question as well, something I'd like to chime in is every social media platform has ability to make an account that I'm aware of, I should say, to make an account private. So that would be something to answer to that question is like, what can parents do to protect their children? Have those accounts as private, you know, and so that way a student um, or a child doesn't accept those or doesn't automatically receive those messages that might be harmful to them. Having them as private, not using the child's name, using some other way to that they are labeling their account so it's not easy to find that child. I mean, those are just some easy steps to take as guardians in order to protect our kids from receiving these unwanted messages.
Yeah, which is such a challenge when our kids are seeing or believing that there's value in the number of followers, right? So we have to work extra hard to make sure that they are focused more on their own privacy and their circle of friends rather than having that public account just so they can get those likes, follows, thumbs up, whatever it is that they're searching for.
So that's like another thing. Um, you know, as Danny was saying about uh making profiles private or you know, et cetera, like that. Like I actually just had to help my mom with this sort of thing, and they make you jump through some hoops to make everything private. They don't make it easy, and that they do that for a reason. Um, because right now we're kind of like in the age of what information, right? And they sell that information. And if they make it harder for you to restrict them getting that information, then you know you'll just give up on it. And I'm good with technology, and it was a pain for me to just try and restrict my mom's Facebook account because I had to go through like 10 different portals just to make it restricted. And they're not the only one. Other companies do the same thing. Um, and it's just kind of how it is right now.
That's a really good point that I didn't realize that it was that difficult. And it's a good reminder that we have to help our kids with that. We can't just tell them to make things private and expect that it's going to get done. If Mark's having some trouble making sure all the boxes are checked, I mean, our kids can't possibly complete that on their own. So, I mean, it definitely is something that we have to be involved in and helping them with that.
Christine, I have something to add. This is Kevin. Um, some things I see when we deal with these issues on campuses, kids have, and I think this has been addressed and talked about, but sometimes parents don't know their students have accounts or they have alternate accounts or other accounts the parents are not aware of. So I think it's very important, for parents to understand that. I like that he had mentioned to be on that social media with them. But a lot of times when we do discipline kids and we show the parents the accounts the kids were using, they have no idea that that's going on. And I would say a majority of the parents I deal with will come in and say, oh, no, my child just has one account. But it turns out that they have multiple accounts on several different platforms.
Yeah, that's tricky. Very tricky. I've 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 definitely had that issue come up for me where a family member said, "Did you know that this exists out there?" And I didn't, but I very much appreciated the whole "it takes a village" mentality, that somebody else is out there scanning and looking and searching, and by chance stumbled across this, so I was able to address it. So it definitely helps to kind of have, have family members just keeping an eye out, helping you out, making sure, they can give you the heads up if they see something that looks like your kid's profile picture. Yeah. All right. Well, we have a little bit of time left, and it looks like we'll probably be done a little early here. But a couple of things, a couple of more questions just in the general setting. So this is for anybody to unmute and chime in if they have anything that they'd like to share. What are some of the biggest or common problems seen on our schools regarding phone use?
I'll chime in on that one. It's so, how do I say this? It's disheartening how attached we all have become to our technology. I know that if I have forgotten my phone at home and I'm almost to work, I will go back home to go get my technology, right? In order to feel like I'm prepared for the day. So our kids who are just raised in this new world of technology, um, it is, there's so many different studies that you can probably even look up that talks about the emotional connection, the psychological connection of those alerts that come off when somebody likes a post that a student has made, that sense of chemical reactions that kids have to those types of things, that then leads to an addiction, right? It sounds, there's a reason why now are so many of our platforms have these different unique little sounds to identify that somebody has liked something that was posted. There's a reason for that. There's a science for that. So that is something that's just so disheartening to me, that our students are willing to risk some consequences. We do repeat to our kids, our cell phones during school are for emergency uses only. Our students' attention spans, especially at middle school age, it's tough enough for our teachers to get concepts across to kids when they're going through so many changes, and then to add in this other aspect of this addiction is what I would probably call it. I would probably call it, to technology. That is one of the disheartening things, is just how we can separate them so that way they can focus about being a kid, they can focus about being a student while here at school. That's a challenge. And I gotta say, some of our parents are guilty about texting their kids while they're at school about, hey, something that they really want a response of. So that would be an encouragement to our parents: is please allow us to do our jobs about educating our kids, and the less distractions, the most appreciative that we would be. So the addiction to technology is something I would say is disheartening.
Christine, one thing I see a challenge with phones is that we make them put in the front pocket of their backpacks, that type of thing, but kids will have them out, sneak them around. They'll take pictures of other individuals and post it on social media very quickly. And so then things spread and it kind of takes over your campus. Other kids get on their access to social media and they see that, it's not, I don't want to use the term bullying, but they might be saying something about another student, and it becomes this big harassment issue during the day because it happens second hour when someone did something, or they're in a compromising position or something like that. They do it to staff members as well. That's why we are very strict with the cell phone policy, trying to have kids put it away. We have phones in every classroom, so parents can easily access their children if needed. But that's what I see, how they're misused a lot, to use as a camera versus not so much cell phones, because parents do call, but most parents, I would say 99% of your parents are pretty respectful of the rule, and they understand it. So, but that's the biggest concern I have with it, is doing things that might impact other students.
I'll add in,
I'm gonna go ahead. Oh.
there are, here at our schools, we have our student meetings that we as admin meet with our kids. We talk to our kids, kind of get a pulse of our campus of things about from their perspective. Student voice is big, especially at middle school. And it's so remarkable that no matter what walk of life, what type of student I pull in, whether it be my little wallflowers or my mathematicians or my musicians or my, students who are quiet and meek and mild, and then the other whole other spectrum, right? Everything across. About no matter what we talk about, the number one thing that our students are most concerned about is how they are looked upon by their peers. It is without a doubt the number one thing that our students are most consumed with. So, which is counterproductive when we are putting these technology pieces in our kids' hands that can do so much damage if they're not responsible enough to manage that. So it all comes down to being able to manage those peers that we have. If our students are having hard time managing the peer-to-peer, face-to-face interactions, maybe that's not the right time to now introduce technology to now they're having challenges and having to cope with off the screen and on screen relationships as well. So for our parents who are thinking about these $1,000 pieces of technology to put into 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds hands, if they're having a hard time face to face and they haven't been able to manage that, so much more pressure comes on with that technology being introduced.
Ms. Ortega, did you have something?
Hi, yes, I was going to add. Another challenge that we're facing at our schools is that, and I think it was already mentioned before, when Officer Salcedo was mentioning about students sharing pictures of other students through social media. That is very common. That includes nudes as well. The other challenge we're facing is that students are involved in a group chat and they're messaging and texting and spreading rumors in those social chats. And most of our fighting at our school, for example, comes from the use of technology because of a rumor being spread through technology, through the social media, either Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. It all stems from what is being spread through the phone.
Thank you guys for sharing that. I think it really helps to hear, for parents to hear what is going on at schools, to really have that communication with their kids, to know what our teachers and administrators are up against, right? And dealing with throughout the day, because it's a big chunk of the day that we don't see our kids. And I think a lot goes on that it's really helpful to know what some of those challenges are so we can help address that with the kids. All right, here's a question for anyone. What social media platforms are kids using more as they move away from Instagram and Facebook? Now, as we're all adults, I'm not sure, maybe someone has some personal insight or have heard some of the latest rumors about some of the platforms. Are they still on Snapchat?
It changes. It changes like from 1 week to the other one. Because when I was teaching in the 6th grade pod, they said, I remember I asked that question, and they said, "Oh, it's Snapchat." And then 2 weeks later, I was in the 7th grade pod, and it was still Snapchat. But when I was in the 8th grade pod, I asked the same question, and they said it was TikTok. And then I went back to the 6th grade, or maybe the 7th grade, I'm not sure, talking about other stuff, and it was a different one. So it changes. Well, in my opinion, that's what I've noticed. But
I think
No,
that
no, I
the
agree.
trending
I
ones at
agree.
our school is Snapchat and TikTok because they believe that it doesn't stay up in the web that long. They think it'll be gone within 24 hours. I believe it's TikTok's time range and Snapchat. I'm not sure what the time frame is, but those are the most two common trending in my opinion at our school, at least for my school, because of the belief that they feel that oh, it'll be gone in a few seconds, so it'll be gone in a few hours.
Did I hear someone else? No.
Yeah, it was me. No, I was just saying, I agree. Um, it 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 does change almost. I would say, I don't know, like every 2 3 years or so. Because like Snapchat's been around for a while, but when it was Snapchat, there was also Vine, right? Vine died because Twitter bought it out, and then people went from Vine to TikTok, and right now TikTok's the big thing. Um, but a lot of people don't know that like TikTok has like these weird like privacy algorithms where they essentially they snoop into your phone a little bit. Um, and I mean, if so when TikTok goes away, I mean, what's going to be next? Because I mean, our government tried to ban TikTok like 2 years ago or something like that. It didn't go through, but you know, after that, it will be something else. Um, you just find another catchy name, and it'll be there. But it's just kind of like just what we live in right now is. I think what Danny was saying earlier that um, kids and whatnot look for validation, right? Um, and in this kind of day that we're living in rather, it's the validation is it's your likes, it's your retweets, it's your comments, right? Um, kind of back when I was in high school, um, the same kind of deal went on, the same kind of like need for validation went on, but it wasn't as instant because we didn't have all that. Maybe MySpace, but it wasn't as needed because you don't instantly post a picture and there's your likes. Now that's what it is, and I do think that's what kind of has changed the mentality going forward, and it will probably be like that for a while, I think.
Thank you. Thanks for that input. I think it is really helpful to just have kind of your finger on the pulse of the latest and greatest, even if it's just kind of knowing the name. And because as soon as we get comfortable with it, they're on to something else, right? But it's good to just be aware of some of those things that are trending in their lives, whether we're able to join ourselves, follow it ourselves, or just be mindful of some of those pitfalls, like the privacy issues and such. Um, we did receive a comment while everyone was having that great discussion, and this is a great comment and a great thing to remind our parents to talk to their kids about, that the school bus is an extension of the school, which is absolutely true. So, these issues that they might be having in the classroom, whether they're sharing information, etc., using their phones inappropriately, it still applies on the school bus as well. So that's a great point. We got a question, which is, what are the schools doing to be proactive? And I'll start that off. I think everyone has some great input on that. Some of the conversation we've had before about what's happening in the schools. But I'll start this off by just saying this tonight is one of the things that we're doing. That's why we started this as a school district amongst middle school administrators. Our student councils are involved in order to help with that peer-to-peer communication. And this is one of the proactive steps we're taking to have this conversation so we can all be on the same page as adults, parents, educators, both parents and educators, right? We all we wear multiple hats. And this is just the first year. This is not, these online issues aren't going to go away. And so we're really hoping to continue this each year, and that way we can really share and discuss those things that are changing and things that come up next year. We can continue this process. And if I
Yep.
could put Officer Saucedo on the spot for a second. I believe you had shared something like you had mentioned just a minute ago about going into the sixth grade pod. What is that? What does that mean? What are the things that you talk about? What is the purpose of that? Can you explain that to some of our
For
parents?
the for the sixth grade, what we're doing, or what I've been doing, I went in there. I gave them a whole class of bullying, and it involved like social media. So I pretty much cover the misuse of the internet, right? Or social media when you're harassing or threatening other students. With seventh and eighth graders, say I cover the same thing, but with them I added more about sexting, law and prevention, crimes that come with it, how to deal with it when you encounter with images like these, and what to do, how to report, and all that good stuff. That's what I've been doing here at Castle Dome. And I know I've been in contact with other SROs in the city with from Fourth Ave and things I'll Viejo too with other ones in middle schools, and pretty much you're covering the same thing. That's my understanding. So that's our part.
Yeah, and I'll chime in on that one, Christine. Our middle schools are so thankful for our partnership that we have with Yuma Police Department. All of our middle schools have an SRO on campus in District 1. Our our SROs are required to go into into classrooms and educate universal strategies with our students, the dangers, their rights as students, multiple different topics that all of our SROs across District 1 go in to do. In addition to that, our district is across all of our schools in our district. We are utilizing a program called Character Strong. So all of our middle schools use that curriculum that talks about empathy for others, that talks about responsibility of choices, positive choices, good interactions, positive interactions, how to manage with stress, how to do those types of things. So all of our campuses are doing those types of things as well. Being active, hearing our kids is another thing, because so many of our campuses have ways where we collect information from our kids anonymously, or kids are always constantly talking to our counselors, talking to our assistant principals, talking to our teachers, reporting things to administrators through emails. Having that line of communication just doesn't happen at home. That line of communication also happens with schools as well. So it's about building that trust is important with us too.
Absolutely. And I think if I can shine a light on Castle Dome Student Council video, their topic that they created was about the positive uses. And so I think if we can praise and identify when they're doing something right, or when they identify a problem or a misuse, I think that really helps to be proactive as well. And oh, this is a great question. What usage of technology, especially phones, have you seen make a positive impact? And did any surprise you? We got just about a minute so everyone can get off to dinner here. So any quick answers? I think without realizing it, I think I kind of just mentioned that the kids really had some great input in the Castle Dome video. I really invite everyone to watch all 5 of them. That they really, when asked, they have some really good ideas, that they really do have a handle on it. I think we just need to remind them a lot.
Well, Christine, I had a young lady come up to me the other day, went over those videos as well at our school in Castle Dome, and she was brainstorming ideas on how to be positive with social media, like to have kindness type of, show pictures of students doing kind acts, or, for students to initiate that. And I thought it was a great idea. You know what I mean? Doing different things and different ways kids could be kind, and it's generated by the students versus adults telling students not to do this. When it comes from students, it's a little more effective. But I thought that was a great idea. Instead of putting pictures of people doing things badly, show pictures of them doing things appropriately.
Some positive usage of phones here at our school is that we have students who don't speak English and they use phone apps such as Google Translate to be able to speak to the teacher, communicate with other students. Our AVID classes are teaching students how to use Google Calendar. That way students stay organized and learn how to manage their time, which is a very important concept, right? For all of us, even as adults. And of course, the usage for calculators as well. And there's other different apps that they're also using. But those are some examples of a positive usage here on campus.
Awesome. Well, that brings us right up to 6:01. So we did get some additional questions that we weren't able to get to, but we do have contact information. So we will make sure that someone will reach out to anyone who had a question that wasn't addressed. We will reach out and make sure we get that addressed for you. If you'd like to rewatch this meeting or share it, or you joined late, maybe you know somebody who wasn't able to attend, it will be on YouTube for viewing, as well as our 5 middle school student council videos, which again, I'd like to just give them a plug. They did fantastic. This was peer-to-peer. They came up with their own information. And it's really enlightening to see what they see and what information they came up with. So I invite everyone to watch those as well. Thank you for everyone who joined tonight, and our principals and SROs for everything that you're doing on your campuses to help be proactive and help our kids through some of these challenging issues that is ever changing. And thanks everyone. Have a good evening.